The movie follows the coming-of-age story of two teenage best friends, Tenoch and Julio. Tenoch is from an influential family. His father is the undersecretary of the state, while Julio belongs to a lower working-class family. Despite their differences in background, the two boys have been close friends ever since they were children. The movie starts with both Tenoch and Julio getting intimate with their girlfriends. Tenoch makes love to his girlfriend, Anna, promising each other that they will not have relations with another person while she is in Italy. Anna is going on a summer vacation to Italy with Cecilia, Julio's best friend. It is revealed that her mother is a liberal, divorced French woman who doesn't mind her daughter sleeping with Tenoch in their house. On the contrary, Cecilia's parents are more traditional. The next morning, Julio and Tenoch accompany their girlfriends to the airport. They kiss the girls goodbye and promise to be faithful. After leaving the girls at the airport, though, Tenoch and Julio go to a party, planning to hook up with other girls. Unfortunately, they fail to attract anyone, so they end up at a friend's place and get completely high after drinking booze and consuming marijuana. The boys have the whole summer ahead of them. They either spend their time at a sports club or hang out with other friends. Soon, the wedding day of Tenoch's sister arrives, which is attended by the President of the Republic himself. Although numerous celebrities and renowned personalities are attending the wedding, Tenoch and Julio have a hard time finding a good spot to chill. The boys even comment that more bodyguards are attending the party than guests. At one time, Tenoch talks to his cousin Alejandro Montes de Oca, Hano, who is a writer. Since Tenoch also wants to be one, he asks several questions about the profession to his cousin. Hano makes fun of him, who in turn reminds his cousin of the terrible reviews of his first book. Julio must come to rescue him from such an annoying conversation. He excuses his friend and shifts their attention to a beautiful young woman with whom they are both fascinated. The woman introduces herself as Luisa Cortez, telling them that she is Hano's wife. She shares that she met Hano when he traveled to Spain to take a postgraduate course. Luisa was orphaned at the age of 10 and was cared for by a great aunt. She lived the last years of her life with her great aunt until she married Hano at the age of 20. Luisa seems to remember that she met Tenoch when he was just a child. She continues to tell the boys that she and Hano have been here in Mexico for a month and that Hano is going to give a lecture at the university. But since classes do not start until September, Hano will go to a meeting of scholarship holders in Villahermosa, while she will dedicate herself to setting up the house and exploring new beaches. Hearing her, Julio says that they too want to go to the beach. They're not going to Puerto Escondido, the beach Hano mentioned. Instead, they'll go to a secret beach called Boca del Cielo, or Heaven's Mouth. This beach is known only to the local fishermen and is said to be in the state of Oaxaca. He then invites Luisa to go with them. The scene then cuts to the next day. Julio and Tenoch return to their boring summer routine, touching themselves together while thinking about actresses or perhaps Hano's wife. In the meantime, Luisa goes for a regular health checkup. She unexpectedly learns that she is suffering from cancer and has only about a month to live. Devastated, she decides to appreciate every moment she has and not worry about the future. One night, she receives a call from Hano, who sobbingly confesses that he has cheated on her with another woman. He explains that he slept with the other woman only because he was very much drunk, but he assures her that he still loves her deeply. Hurt after the confession, Luisa calls Tenoch, whom she assumes is preparing his trip to the beach, and decides to join them. Tenoch, who had already forgotten about the conversation, calls Julio, and they decide to hastily prepare for the trip to Heaven's Mouth Beach. Julio then gets his sister, Manuela, to lend him her car. After this, he and Tenoch go to see their friend Saba so that he can show them the route to the beach. It turns out that Saba was the one who had first mentioned the beach to them. With everything already prepared, they pick up Louisa and begin their trip. During the ride, Louisa explains to them that she is a dental technician, while the boys brag to her about forming a brotherhood, the Charolastras, and even show her a manifesto that they proudly recite before her. The trio spend the first night in a small hotel. Tenok and Julio peep through Louisa's door, hoping to see her naked body. However, they see her crying alone, after which they return to their room. The next day, Louisa appears before them as if nothing had happened, assuring them that she realized they were spying on her. They hit the road again and talk about their previous relationships. Louisa tells them that she had a boyfriend before Hano, telling them about her first sexual experience and how in love she was with that boyfriend. Sadly, he was killed in a motorcycle accident. She then asks the teenage boys to explain how they make love with their girlfriends. This is when they pass the Tepelmeme, the village of Tenok's nanny, whom he called Mom until he was 4 years old. Tenok seems to miss her as she is no longer living with his family. Suddenly, the car starts to emit smoke and must be towed to a nearby workshop. Louisa calls Hano and leaves a voicemail explaining that she initially considered disappearing from his life without informing him. However, she thought that it wasn't the right thing to do so, which is why she is calling him right now. They make themselves comfortable at a hotel that is somewhat better than the previous one. When Tenok goes to Louisa's room to look for shampoo, he finds her crying again. When he approaches her, she suddenly acts normal and asks him to take off his towel. She also tells him to touch himself in front of her and abruptly shows him her breasts. The two then end up making wild love to each other, although Tenok finishes immediately. He then apologizes for not satisfying her. In the meantime, Julio discovers them and goes outside in the swimming pool. He feels a pang inside his stomach that he had had only when he was 8 years old. It was the time when he discovered his mother sleeping with his godfather. Tenok soon joins him, and they compete in a diving race in the pool, even though it is full of leaves. Julio is upset by the thought that Louisa chose Tenok over him. So, without giving it much thought, he reveals to Tenok that he once slept with his girlfriend, Anna. Tenok is completely taken aback by his best friend's words. The confession hits him in the head, making him feel nauseous. He hadn't felt this way ever since that one time when at the age of 11, he saw the name of his father in a newspaper. His father was supposedly involved in a contaminated corn import fraud, and they had to go live in Vancouver for 8 months. In the next scene, Louisa notices the tension between the two friends during dinner. Later, Tenok asks Julio for all kinds of explanations and details. Julio then tells him that they did it after a party when they were both drunk, assuring him that he didn't even like it. The next day, they continue their journey to the beach where they cross rural and poorer parts of Mexico. Louisa, who continues to sense the tension between the two boys, tries to freshen their mood, but to no avail. She then hops back to Julio's seat and talks about the other night. She tells him that if he had come into her room instead of Tenok the other night, she would have been intimate with him too. As the trip continues, Tenok tells Julio that he also slept with his girlfriend, Cecilia. It happened when they left Julio at his house after a concert. Tension soon escalates between the two as they stop the car to solve the matter in a rather brutal way. Upon seeing their attitude, Louisa decides to take her bag and leave alone. She calls them out for their childish behavior and sleeping with each other's girlfriends. She also mentions that it doesn't really matter if they engage in such activities because they're so quick to finish that the girls hardly notice. She suggests that what they truly want is to sleep with each other instead. The boys realize that Louisa is really leaving, so they apologize to her, assuring her that from now on, they will do things as she wants. Louisa then sets several conditions for them and continues the trip together. She also makes it clear that she will be the one in charge from now on. But by then, the boys are so lost and do not know where they are since their friend Saba's directions are so confusing and contradictory. Tired of searching, they finally enter an off-road path which unfortunately causes their car to be stranded in the sand. Unable to do anything, they eventually drift off to sleep. When Louisa awakens the next morning, she discovers that they have ended up on a stunningly beautiful beach. The trio then enjoy a refreshing swim and drinking together on the seemingly deserted beach. They set up tents and relax under the sunny sky. However, their joy is interrupted when Jesus Carranza, also known as Chewy, a local fisherman, and his wife Mabel suddenly appear. The couple offers to guide them to all the nearby beaches for a fee of 350 pesos, which includes food. Intrigued, the friends agree and are especially surprised when they reach the beach called Heaven's Mouth, realizing this beach really exists. They then tour around the area and enjoy the warm and adventurous trip. Sadly, upon their return, they find their tent destroyed by a herd of pigs. As a result, they must spend the night at a hotel. At night, Louisa talks to Hano again and tells him she is not taking revenge for going away because she always knew about his infidelities. Although she hoped that he would change, she admits that she would have left him anyway sooner or later. She then cuts the phone and cries bitterly. Later, she joins Tenok and Julio to have dinner. The two boys end up getting drunk, making fun of each other, talking freely about their relationships with their respective girlfriends, all the while Louisa laughing at them for how bad they are at making love. Julio also mentions that he had slept with Tenok's mother, but it is unclear whether he is serious. The trio then dance together and slowly retreat to the room. After undressing, Louisa kneels before the boys and begins to stimulate them. Julio and Tenok then start to kiss each other and eventually end up sleeping with each other. The next morning, the two friends wake up next to each other, naked and confused. Embarrassed, Julio claims that he has to return to the city to hand over the car to his sister. Tenok then mentions that his parents might be worried about his absence. Louisa, for her part, tells them that she will stay there for a few days because the local guide is going to show her other beaches. During their ride back home, both Tenok and Julio share a deep silence. Throughout the entire time, they avoid talking to each other, seemingly embarrassed about what happened last night. Following the trip, Julio and Tenok grow distant from each other. They also break up with their girlfriends and start dating other girls. A year later, the boys meet by chance in the street. They then decide to sit down for coffee. It's during this conversation that Tenok shares with Julio the heartbreaking news that Louisa passed away from cancer in San Barnabas just a month after their trip. Just before the trip, she had been diagnosed with incurable cancer and she already knew she was going to die. After their brief and awkward catch-up, the boys bid each other farewell, promising to meet sometime later. However, the narrator reveals that they never saw each other again.